I have a confession to make. I own way too many classic books. And the slightly embarrassing part? I haven't even read all of them. Welcome to Book Labyrinth, where we unravel the stories behind the pages. Some of them have been sitting on my shelf for years, patiently waiting for me to become the kind of person who actually has time to read the Divine Comedy. That person has not arrived yet. But I have read quite a lot of these books, and over time, I've started to realize that my feelings about classics are complicated. Some completely changed the way I think. Some made me fall in love with reading all over again. Some took me months to finish. And some, I genuinely don't understand why I couldn't get into them. So today, I want to go through my classic book collection, talk about the ones I've actually read, the ones I haven't, the ones I loved, the ones I struggled with, and most importantly, I'm going to rank the classics I've read from my favorites to my least favorites. And before anyone gets angry with me, this is completely based on my personal taste. I'm not saying one book is objectively better than another. I'm basically just telling you which books emotionally destroyed me in the best possible way. So let's get into it. Let's start with some of the smaller classics. I have How Much Land Does a Man Need? By Leo Tolstoy, The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and The Nose by Nikolai Gogol. These little penguin editions are honestly some of my favorite books to just pick up randomly. They're tiny, they're beautiful, and you can finish most of them in one sitting. How Much Land Does a Man Need? Is such a simple story, but there's a lot underneath it. For me, it's really about greed. It's about constantly thinking that if you just had a little more, you'd finally be satisfied, and then realizing that maybe you never actually will be. It's such a small book, but Tolstoy manages to make a pretty huge point in a very short amount of time. Then there's The Nose by Gogol. This book is just weird. Like, really weird. It's about a man who wakes up one morning and realizes that his nose has somehow disappeared. And somehow, the story gets even stranger from there. I love books like this. Books where you're reading and constantly thinking, what am I even reading right now? But in a good way. Then we have The Telltale Heart. I read this a long time ago, so I don't remember every detail, but I remember the atmosphere. It's dark, creepy, and incredibly unsettling. And considering how short it is, it's pretty impressive how much tension Poe manages to create. Now, let's get into some of the bigger classics. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck was one of those books that I finished and immediately thought, wow, that was depressing. It's incredibly sad, but it's also such a powerful story about friendship, dreams, loneliness, and the idea of the American dream. And it's short. So if you're intimidated by classic literature, this is one I definitely recommend starting with. You don't need to spend 3 months reading it. You can just sit down and let it emotionally destroy you in one afternoon. Then we have Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin Ali. This one surprised me. I didn't really know what to expect when I picked it up, and I ended up loving it. It's a very melancholic story about love, loneliness, and yearning. And I think that's the word I'd use for the whole book. Yearning. It's quiet, emotional, and honestly, one of the books I've read in recent years that stayed with me longer than I expected. If there's a book you'd like me to review, just drop the title in the comments. Need the ebook? Message me on Telegram. And if this video was useful to you, a small coffee donation goes a long way in keeping this channel going.